Let me show you one of the strangest mistakes in retirement planning. Imagine a person standing safely inside a house made of stone and then spending the next 20 years building another stone house inside the first one. More walls. More concrete. More protection. More safety. And somehow, they never notice they're giving up the garden, the sunlight, the view, and half the land they already paid for. That is what a lot of pension holders are doing with their retirement money. They already have one of the most powerful financial assets in existence. Guaranteed income for life. But then they build their investment portfolio as if they have no guaranteed income at all. And the result is brutal. Not dramatic. Not flashy. Not the kind of mistake that gets attention. Just the quiet kind that can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars while everything still looks responsible. Today, I want to show you why having a pension changes almost everything about how retirement should be planned and why most people with pensions are still using the wrong map. Hey, I'm Elon. And on this channel, we talk about money in a way that actually makes sense. No fake guru talk. No complicated finance language just to sound smart. Just the truth, explained simply. Today, we are talking about pensions. And this is important because if you have a pension, you do not have the same retirement problem as most Americans. That means you should not be using the same retirement strategy either. Your pension changes. Your investment mix, your tax planning, your risk level, and even the big decision of whether to take monthly income or a lump sum. But most people never get shown that clearly. So let's fix that. Here's the image I want you to keep in your head for this whole video. A pension is a floor. Not a roof. Not a bonus. Not extra money later. A floor. A strong floor means you are standing on something solid. It is there whether the market goes up or down. It is there whether the news is scary or calm. It is there whether your portfolio has a great year or an ugly one. That is what makes a pension so powerful. It gives you ground you cannot easily fall through. And once you have that floor, your investment portfolio is no longer trying to do the same job it would do for someone without one. That's the critical shift. A person with no pension needs their portfolio to be a paycheck. A person with a strong pension may only need their portfolio to fill a gap. Those are two completely different jobs. And if you treat them like the same job, you build the wrong portfolio, make the wrong tax moves, and often become far too conservative. That is where the money leak begins. Now let's talk about the most common mistake. A lot of pension holders still invest like this. Since I'm getting older, I should move more money into bonds. That sounds responsible. And for some people, it is. If someone has no pension, no annuity, no guaranteed monthly income, then yes, having more stable assets in retirement can make sense. But here's the problem. If you already have a pension, your pension is already doing much of the job bonds are supposed to do. Think about what bonds are usually there for. Steady income, less dependence on the stock market, less volatility, more stability. Now think about what your pension already gives you. Steady income, less dependence on the stock market, less volatility in your retirement life, more stability. You see the issue? If you already have one strong safety layer and then you pile another huge safety layer on top of it, you may end up overprotecting yourself. And overprotection in money is not free. It has a price. That price is slower growth. So what happens? A pension holder builds a super conservative portfolio not because they need that much safety but because that is the default advice. And over 10, 20, 25 years, the lost growth can become enormous. That is the quiet mistake. Nothing crashes. Nothing explodes. Nothing obviously goes wrong. You just end up with far less than you could have had. Let's say someone has a pension that covers a big part of their living costs. Maybe not all of it, but enough that the basics are already handled. That means their investment portfolio is not emergency oxygen. It is not trying to stop them from starving. It is helping with the extra gap or helping build more freedom, more flexibility, more future choices. That changes the role of the portfolio completely. But a lot of pension holders still load up on bonds, cash-heavy funds, and ultra-conservative investments as if their portfolio is the only thing keeping them alive. And that is where the leak becomes expensive. Because the portfolio is being asked to sit still when it could have been allowed to grow. This is the key idea. If your pension is already covering your floor, your portfolio may not need to act like a floor too. Some of it can act like your growth engine instead. And when people miss that, they spend decades stacking concrete on top of concrete when what they really needed was windows, space, and height. That's why the metaphor matters so much. The floor is not your ceiling. Now let's talk about taxes, because this is where pension holders often get hit in a way that surprises them. A lot of people spend their working years putting money into traditional retirement accounts. Traditional 401k. Traditional IRA. Pre-tax contributions. Why? Because the usual logic sounds smart. I'll get the tax break now, and later in retirement I'll probably be in a lower tax bracket. That sounds fine. But here's the catch. If you have a pension, your retirement income may already be pretty solid before you even touch your 401k. That means the lower tax brackets can already be partly filled. Then Social Security arrives. Then required withdrawals can arrive later. And suddenly the money you thought would be taxed gently in retirement gets taxed at a higher rate than you expected. That is the trap. The pension changes the tax landscape. It fills the room before your other money walks in. So pension holders often need to think harder about Roth contributions, Roth conversions, and the timing of when taxable income appears. Because retirement taxes for a pension holder are not the same puzzle as retirement taxes for someone with no guaranteed income. Again, same country, same accounts, same tax code. Different floor. Different game. There is a period many people with pensions should pay serious attention to. These are the years after work ends but before all the other retirement income sources fully pile on. This can be a very powerful planning window. Why? Because sometimes during that window, your taxable income is temporarily lower than it will be later. That makes it a good time for things like Roth conversions, tax planning, or restructuring money before required withdrawals begin. But too many people just drift through that period. No plan. No deliberate moves. No attention. And then later they realize they missed one of the best chances to reduce future tax pain. This is another reason pension planning needs its own logic. Because the order that income arrives in retirement matters. And a pension changes that order. So the best strategy is not always retire, relax, and wait. Sometimes the smarter move is retire, then use the next few years like a smart chess player before the board gets crowded. Now we get to one of the biggest decisions in the whole pension world. A lot of pension plans give people a choice. Take the monthly pension or take a lump sum, and this is one of the most dangerous moments in retirement planning. Because many people make this decision too quickly. Maybe one meeting. Maybe one worksheet. Maybe one conversation with someone who works for the plan. And suddenly the choice is locked. Now to be clear. For many people, the monthly pension is a good choice. Maybe the best choice. It gives guaranteed income. It removes a lot of stress. It protects people from having to manage a big pile of money themselves. That matters. But the lump sum should not be dismissed automatically either. Because the lump sum brings different powers. Flexibility, growth potential, estate planning value, control, and the possibility of leaving money behind. So this is not a decision for vibes. It is not a decision for a rushed office meeting. It is a real math decision. And if someone already has other strong assets, other guaranteed income, or specific family goals, the answer may not be the obvious default. The monthly pension may still win. But probably right for many people is not the same thing as definitely right for you. Those are different standards. And this decision deserves the second one. Now let's talk about one of the most underrated powers of a pension. A pension does not only give you money. It gives you time. More specifically, it gives you the power to wait. This matters because one of the biggest dangers in retirement investing is being forced to sell assets during a bad market. If the market drops early in retirement and a person needs their portfolio for living expenses, they may have to sell at exactly the wrong time. That can damage the portfolio in a way that is hard to recover from. But a person with a pension is in a different position. If the pension covers the basics, then in a bad market year they may not need to touch the portfolio at all. They can wait. That is huge. The pension gives them patience as a financial asset. It separates survival from market timing. And that means a pension holder has one of the greatest advantages in retirement, but many of them still invest as if they're just as exposed as everyone else. That's the irony. They already solved a major part of the retirement risk problem. Then they spend the next 20 years acting like the problem is still unsolved. And that often leads them right back into overconservatism. So let's make this practical. If you are more than 10 years from retirement, start understanding your pension formula now. Learn whether a lump sum option exists. Pay attention to Roth contributions if they are available. Because if your pension will fill your future lower tax brackets, Roth money may become much more valuable than you think. If you are within 10 years of retirement, calculate how much of your future expenses your pension and Social Security are expected to cover. That ratio matters. Because once you know how much of your floor is already handled, you can invest the rest of your portfolio more intelligently. Part of your portfolio may need to be stable, but not all of it. If retirement is very close, do not treat the monthly vs lump sum decision like paperwork. Model both paths seriously. Look at your health, your spouse, your estate goals, your spending needs, your taxes, your other assets. And if needed, pay for good advice from someone whose pay does not depend on steering you into a product. That decision is too big for lazy thinking. So here's the truth. If you have a pension, you do not have the same retirement plan as someone without one. And if you still use the same strategy anyway, you may be leaving a huge amount of money and flexibility on the table. Your pension is not a small detail. It is not a side note. It is the floor. And once the floor is already there, your job is not to spend 20 more years pouring more concrete on top of it. Your job is to ask, what should I build above the floor? Growth? Flexibility? Tax freedom? Legacy? More choices? That is the real pension question. Not just, how do I stay safe? But, now that I'm safe, how do I stop treating the floor like it's my ceiling? If this changed the way you think about pensions, subscribe. Because on this channel, we don't just repeat retirement advice. We rebuild it around real life. And in the comments, tell me this. If you had a strong pension, would you still invest super conservatively, or would you let your portfolio reach for more growth?